What's going on, world? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Appreciate everybody who is tapping in. Okay, we got the notifications going. What's up? Let us know how you feeling. What is something that you are grateful for? I think I hit accept. Yep. Okay. We are super excited to be on with you tonight. We have a very, very special guest, Miss Ashling Cole herself. So we're super excited to be on with her tonight. We'll get her in a few minutes. T, what's going on? How you feeling?
Man, fantastic. Another day in the land of paradise. I'm just sending out these notifications real quick
Oh
and
yeah, let
be
me go
ready.
ahead. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's just the little things in life. You know what I'm
yeah. Just gotta
saying?
let them know. One time for the one time. You just gotta let them know what's going on.
One
Make
time for the one time.
make it
I need
easy
a,
on them.
yeah, I need an auto blast notification.
Auto send. What's going on, Rod? We see you in the building. What's going on?
What's up?
Um,
What's up?
Let me see if I can find Ashley. She said she was looking for us. Okay. What's going on, Kyle? Coach
What's up,
Kyle in the
Kyle?
business. Let us know, what is one thing that you're grateful for or one win that you have for this week. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. What's going on, Nikki? I see you. My gratitude for this week is like everything that I'm learning in real estate and learning about like the things that systems, structures, things that I need to improve on, things that frustrate me, things that cause me pain. I'm learning that I need to create a system around those areas so that I can regulate my emotional barometer
Yeah,
to you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Not want to pop off
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. No, 100%. And once you put in those SOPs to support those LOPs, they almost fall right in line with each other. You know what I'm saying? So you can almost tell. Like we used to go to real estate offices, and it'd be like 15, 20 of us deep, tr- trying to get a check. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, you ain't got to do that no more. Not if you got your SOPs in place.
Yep, exactly. So go ahead and let us know in the comments hashtag live if you're tuning in live with us. If you're catching the replay, hit that hashtag replay. But let us know, what is something that you're grateful for this week or a win that you have for this week. And Ash, I see you on. If you could hit the request to join, we will go ahead and be able to bring you on up.
Man,
What
we
about
got
you?
man, we got Ash in the house. What are you grateful for?
Yeah, no, I just told you all that learning I did. What are you grateful for?
Uh, I'm super grateful that we get the $1 million voice in the house today. So we get to chat up with her for a little bit and be able to hear her stories and how she has grown and developed. And
Yeah,
man, she just become a awesome leader just overall as a person. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just super, super stoked and excited about that.
yeah. I've known Ash. I think it's been like the last 4-ish years. We met when she joined Breathe University, but just being able to see her growth from where she was then to where she is now, and what's to come. I'm super excited to have her on and just to hear
Oh,
more about it.
oh,
Hey,
oh,
What's going on,
hey,
good
yes.
people?
hey.
What's happening?
What's
You
up?
already
Ash, how
know.
you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. I shared with Ash and T. I've been fighting a bug all week. So if I go on mute for a second, it's just that I'm dealing with all of this. But I'm grateful that,
I know
look, it hasn't
that's
taken
right.
me out. I'm still productive. I'm still getting my stuff
Yeah,
done. I'm still getting
I
on the
know.
calls. So it's just a minor. It's just sometimes you just got to sit down and take a break. Sometimes you need self-care and you need a little
Teach
push
on
in that
that.
Yeah,
direction.
when I saw you on the elite call earlier today, I was like, okay, cool. She should be good for tonight. We should be okay. Okay.
Oh, for sure. Oh no, I wasn't canceling.
Yeah.
It wasn't no way I was gonna cancel. So
Hey Ash, so first off, you just got back from Atlanta. You were on the
Wait.
national.
Hold on. Let's give her the proper introduction. He likes to jump
Okay,
ahead, and
okay,
this
okay.
pilot, he just likes to get things going. And I'm like, wait, we have a whole system, we have a whole format. One sec. I'm gonna go ahead and read your bio here. Ashling Cole is a powerhouse singer-songwriter who grew up in the Oakland/San Francisco Bay Area. She's been touring internationally with iconic artists such as Larry Graham, Sheila E, Dave Cobb, and Prince before his untimely death for the last 12 years. She is a praise and worship leader, gospel recording artist, soon-to-be published author, and recently finished 4th on season 10 of Sunday's Best. Miss Ashling Cole, welcome to the Executive Corner.
Hold on, I gotta put my glasses on so I can read these comments. I definitely want to give a shout out to my bestest friend who I just saw tuned in, Jacory Prothro. Y'all go follow him because he had his Instagram hacked.
Yeah.
Okay, we built a new followers. Amen.
Yeah.
So y'all go follow Jacory Prothro. And he's actually the whole reason why I even ended up on Sunday Best. So I owe him so very, very much. But yeah, I'm a Bay Area girl through and through. People are always trying to get me to leave California, leave the Bay Area, and I'm like, nah.
Let's keep it real though. Let's bring it back to the city first though, because
Come on, I did. I went to elementary school and actually preschool. I went to preschool, elementary school, middle school, and high school in San Francisco. Shout out to the city.
Y'all different breed.
For sure.
I'm cool, like, on this side. Y'all different breed.
We are though, but it's so weird because you could always tell when somebody is from the city. We have just like a different swag. We do. We have a different swag about us for sure.
So Ash, you just got back from Atlanta. You were on the national stage for the MLK. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, man. First of all, shout out to Tiffany Haynes, my manager out in Dallas, Texas. I think they didn't tell me the magnitude of this event on purpose. I think they accidentally on purpose, or I just didn't see it. So I go out to Atlanta. I know that I'm there to sing for an MLK event, but I didn't know it was the MLK event at the King Center, which was absolutely,
have you been there before?
Amazing. So I had never been to the King Center before, but I had been to Ebenezer Church, which is there in Atlanta. But this, where we were, was across the street. So it was just spectacular. So I ended up singing. So I go up, I go do my song, and I go sit down, and next thing I know, Kiara Sheard comes and sits next to me, and we end up having a conversation. So shout out to her. And then we had a few more people, and then Yolanda Adams was on the program as well. So I'm right. So just amazing. And the Bible talks about that, he'll put you in front of important people, right? And so that's always my goal, is just to be true to myself. And it took me a long time to get here. I got to tell you, it took me a long time to get here. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about sharing encouragement to the next generation, because I don't want y'all to have to wait till you're 40. And like my mother, my mother in her case, she waited till she was 60. she published her first book when she was, you know, around 60 years old. She passed away when she was just under 70. So I'm like, y'all don't have to wait, you know, write the vision, make it plain. But if you don't know what your vision is, you got to go back to the first thing or the very last thing that you know God told you. Whatever that last thing was, go back to that thing. And for me, I went back to the beginning and it was always music. It was always music. And so when I go back to that core, that core, it's something that strengthens me. It's something that moves me. I feel the vibrations of music, and it puts me in alignment. And so the fact that I have the ability to sing is wonderful, but it's not enough. It's what's behind the voice. What is motivating you? What is inspiring you? And so when people say, you know, wow, you have an anointing, that comes from humbling myself and being humbled like many times over. And I think it's just so important. If you have a skill, that's not enough. It's great. It's great to have a skill, but what's behind it? What's the motivation, inspiration behind it, or what's the source? So that's always what I do. And so when I walk into a room and Yolanda Adams and Kiara Sheard and you know, Warnock and all these amazing people are on the program.
You
blows
just
my
alluded
mind.
to it a little bit. So like, if you can take us back to the beginning, you know, how did you get into music? What was that like for you?
So my dad and I used to always read the Sunday Chronicle, right? And so the Chronicle or the Examiner, I forget which one. I think it's the Chronicle was on Sunday.
Oh, I read both. So, you know.
Right. So it was like the I think it was the Chronicle, and it was the big one on Sunday.
Yeah, that's the Chronicle.
Like extra. Yeah. But it was a Sunday Chronicle. So my dad and I would always read the comics together, and he would pull it out, and my mom would read the date book, and my dad and I would read the comics. And so while we were reading the paper one Sunday, I was 6 years old. There was an ad in there for the San Francisco Girls Chorus. Now rewind, I'm singing since birth. My mom is always playing music. There was always some kind of music going on, and she was eclectic with what she listened to, from James Galway, who's an Irish flautist. My mother grew up in Ireland, and so Van Morrison, Bruce Springsteen, you know, like so many different, Aretha Franklin, just everything. And so 6 years old, there was an ad for the San Francisco Girls Chorus, and my dad looked at me. He said, "Is this something you want to do?" And I said, "Yeah." So my dad was somebody who would move mountains to give me whatever it was that I wanted, if it was going to better me as a human being, because that's just who he was. And so I went and auditioned. I was the youngest person to audition for San Francisco Girls Chorus. I got in when I was 7 years old, and I was there until I was 12. And so I was studying opera and choir singing and how to read music and all that stuff. But it was when I heard Whitney Houston, and I said, "Oh Lord, I don't want to do this R&B anymore. I want to go do that."
What inspired you most about that?
And so just her passion. I mean, first of all, she was a voice for the ages. I don't think we'll ever have another Whitney Houston. It was just something magical about her voice. I mean, it was just like so pure and so perfect. It was just perfect. And so just to hear her just casually go through a song and make it so magnificent was just fascinating to me. And so I used to sing, with the hairbrush in the mirror singing, and I would do little demos, and that turned into me meeting producers in the Bay Area, like Martin Luther, like Jamie Hawkins, people like that. And so then I went on to sign to Interscope Records when I was 17, and I cut a record that unfortunately was never released, but that just kind of started me on the path.
What was your big stage? Okay, go ahead.
For that, what did you enjoy most about it, you know, growing up around it, or growing up being involved in music?
So I always felt like I didn't have a voice as far as like my self-esteem goes. I didn't think I was very pretty. I was very tall. I'm 5'10", and you know, I had crooked teeth, and acne, and I cut my hair short when I was, you know, like 9 or 10. And so I just didn't feel like I ever fit in, and I was just an outsider. And so singing just gave me a voice. Like all of a sudden, people that didn't like me or didn't understand me, just, I was like their best friend after they heard me sing. And so it was this interesting gateway. And it's almost like a universal language, right? We talk about that a lot. So you can go to another country and you don't speak the same language, but you could put on a song, and you could both dance to a song that you may not even understand the words to, but it's something, a universal language that we all speak. And so that's what I found. I found that it just gave me a voice.
Ash, you have been on the stage with Sheila E, Larry Graham, Prince. Look, we'll get to that.
to name a few.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But before you got on stage, like, what was your biggest stage that said, I think I may have arrived, or I am on that journey? What was your big, like pivot?
So there's a few. So when I was 9 years old, this is a fun fact, T, that I don't even know if you know this, but when I was 9 years old with the San Francisco Girls Chorus, I sang Super Bowl 19. Yes, and Super Bowl 19 was at Stanford, and it was the 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. And I remember that so clearly, and I was like,
do you have video of that?
So cool. And I'm 9 years old. I have no idea. I've never been able to find it or anything like that. So that's a fun project for anybody who's watching. Go Google that, see if you can get footage of the national anthem from Super Bowl 19. Yep. So that was one. And then shortly after that, the Queen of England came to San Francisco and was visiting. And the girls' chorus was singing for the Queen of England. Now, of course, my mother, being an Irish woman, she grew up in Ireland, did not want to have anything to do with the Queen of England. So while I was inside the building singing to honor the Queen, my mother was outside protesting, which so there was like this very interesting dynamic. And I remember having a conversation with my mom and saying, you know, I really want to do this. Like, this is an amazing opportunity. And so I went and sung inside, and then I actually came outside and met my mom and carried my little picket sign, which didn't make any sense to me at all then at, 10 years old or whatever it was, but just a very interesting dynamic. But that kind of set me up for, wanting to do bigger things. But it was a long time until I got onto another big stage. And the biggest stage, and I know this is where you're leading to, T, the biggest stage was Madison Square Garden with Prince and with Larry Graham. And I'm like, man, I mean, that's probably on a lot of people's bucket list, and I don't even have to put it on my bucket list because it's already been accomplished. So absolutely amazing.
I love that. If you guys have any questions for Ash, as we're going throughout her journey and her story, feel free to drop that in the questions box and we will go ahead and ask them. I wanted to take it back to, you mentioned, signing with Interscope Records, being, I think, around 19 and like that age that you were in. And what would you say is like one of the biggest challenges or some of the challenges that you were experiencing as a new artist or as a signed artist?
So probably the biggest challenge for me, and now I know because of the flight assessment, right? And, the three of us know about the flight assessment, and y'all can go to flightassessment.com if you want to know more about it. But I didn't know myself well enough to know what my superpower was also my kryptonite. And I didn't understand that at that age. And so my personality is called a flight attendant personality, right? And so I would go into these rooms and be able to talk my way into any kind of friendship, partnership, relationship, whatever kind of ship I could talk my way into. But when I got in there, I didn't have the maturity to know how to solidify that relationship and actually have it be productive. And I was most of the time an annoyance because I didn't know when to be quiet. I didn't know when to listen. I thought I was just going to run my mouth. And, you know, with my little 18-year-old's attitude, it looks like somebody said they found the Super Bowl 19 national anthem. That is really good. Please DM me, please.
Hey, drop that link. Drop that link up in there.
As soon as we started talking about the flight assessment, Moose hopped on. I don't know if that was coincidence or what, but you know, as soon as we started talking that flight assessment language, Moose popped on. What's up, Moose?
Come on, he's got his little ears perked up. He probably got a little notification. They said flight assessment. We better jump in there.
No, I think that, you know, that's super insightful, especially now having that 360 perspective of, had I known this now, had I been more self-aware, had I known about my personality, character traits, and limitations, how you could have navigated a little bit differently in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because I hadn't taken dominion over my emotions, and that was the key. And so now as an adult, and of course, it goes back to, like, you don't wait till you're 40 to learn how to navigate your emotions. Emotions are not bad, right? Emotions are not bad, but when you allow your emotions to run you, that's when it gets to be a nuisance. And you don't want to have your superpower be your kryptonite. That's the biggest thing. And the thing is, like, I thought everybody had that personality. I didn't understand that, you know, more than 70% of people would be like, get out of my face type of thing. So it's taken me a long time to do that, but you know, it was a learning experience for sure. And I'm somebody that wastes no experience. There is no experience that I've been through that goes wasted. Everything that I have done has been to get me to here, and this is where I want to be right now in my life.
The people who you met, like Larry Graham, Sheila E, who is a favorite of mine as well, Prince, did they teach you how to become the very best version of you, either through words or actions, or did any of them, or maybe any other of them, may have given you good guidance along the way?
Absolutely. In fact, so two very specific things. So Larry Graham, just generally speaking, he was the epitome of class, and he would carry himself in a way. First of all, he never showed up not clean. Now, y'all know what I mean, clean. Now, he was suited and booted, but even when he was in his sweatsuit, I'm talking about matchy, he had his hat, his t-shirt, his wife would have on the same thing. I mean, they will be matchy ministry, okay? And he taught me how to care about how you look. Care about how you look, because some people will not take you seriously if you show up and you haven't, simple things. You haven't combed your hair. You haven't brushed your teeth. You didn't iron your t-shirt. Just little things that can take us 5 to 10 minutes in our morning routine. And if we skip those steps, we might sabotage the whole rest of our day. So that was a lesson, a very important lesson that he taught me. Now, Sheila E, I had a moment with her in rehearsal. Excuse me. And there was one of the musicians, a very, very famous musician. And I was, my role in that room was background singer. Okay. I was a background singer right now in that moment. There was a musician, very, very famous. I am not going to say his name, but he needed help with some sheet music. And I happened to be right there. And so I immediately turned and started helping with the sheet music, like to either hold it or stabilize it or something like that. And Sheila came over to me and she said, that's not your lane.
Go ahead.
And I didn't understand in the moment. Now, she and I had a great relationship, so I wasn't offended, or I wasn't in my feels about it. She really just like, wow, wait a minute. It's not my lane. So she basically was saying there is somebody that has been hired to take care of that, and they're not on their job. Now you're going to cover for somebody that's not on their job, and now you're not going to be on your job. And I said, whoa, that is a lesson for the ages.
And even knowing your flight assessment, that was you and your grounds crew all day. Like, oh, no problem. Let me go ahead and help
for sure.
you. Like, not necessarily worried about what you had going on. Like, let me go ahead and provide that support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And shout out to Cheryl. I just saw Cheryl's on here, Cheryl Clifford. Shout out to her and her husband. And yes, she's a long time friend. And she and I were friends. She was right there in the beginning when I was auditioning to be in Graham Central Station. So Cheryl, I'm so glad that you were able to jump on here.
There. Love that. Love that. Go ahead, T.
I last couple of weeks, we've been really touching on the topic, and you and I talk from time to time, and all of us do, just in becoming the very best version of us. That's kind of how the topic evolved into. And we was like, we got to get Ash on, because you have, like, I've known you for the last several years, and I could say you're not the same person.
100%.
I mean, you're still amazing and talented and all the other good stuff, but you have evolved into a elite type of person that in our eyes is like, look, she is becoming the very best version of her, and you're tapping into your source. Can you help us understand how that is happening and how you're going about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that feedback and that encouragement, because I definitely know that the last 3 years has probably been the most transformative season of my entire life, for sure. For sure. And it started by me joining a community of people that were doing more than I was doing, right? And so I was good. I was a good singer. I was traveling. People looked up to me. I was in a good position. But for all intents and purposes, I had it all together, right? But inside, I was shaking in my boots, like afraid of things. I was not confident in my decisions. I didn't trust myself to make decisions or make good choices, because I'd come from a failed marriage and an estranged relationship with my son, and and. So what I was telling myself, you can't, you're not good enough, you don't really matter, you don't have a voice, those things were manifesting outside of my body from inside my body. And I didn't understand that when I speak those things that are not as though they were, that's what I end up seeing. And so it's almost like what I call like a spiritual Google. And you can type anything you want into this Google thing, and it's basically our words, right? And so I don't feel good. My back hurts. I'm not pretty. I'm too tall. I'm too whatever it is. Then the spiritual Google takes what you just said, and it goes and finds circumstances, people, places, or things to co-sign on what you just put in there into the spiritual Google.
And I did my little twitch over here where my back's in, but I promise you, that was crazy. I'm already triggered.
So, right. So in the same sense, if you say, I am enough, I have all that I need, I am healthy, wealthy, wise, I am more than a conqueror, I can do all things, right? When you begin to put that into the spiritual Google, now it brings all those things to manifestation so that you can start living in that reality. So you've got to understand that words matter. So the words that I was using to speak my existence were all negative. I had it all backwards. And so when I began to learn that my words matter, that's when things started to change. That's when I started to become more confident. But I had to let go of the old version of myself first before I could walk into the new version of myself. And some of that meant that I had to let some people go. Because there were people around me that were speaking to me as the old version of me. And so even though I would make progress and I would begin to move in this more positive version of myself, I still had people that were saying, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? The audacity. You think that they're going to accept you, or like whatever the thing was. I was getting this negative feedback because they knew me as an old version of myself. So it was a lonely ride for a while. And some friendships didn't make it. Some long-term friendships didn't make it because I had to understand the assignment, the calling on my life was bigger than just me. And so I had a responsibility to let those things go. And so now I use affirmations. I use, Coach T, you know, my mantra. Excuse me. I use different things, music, Dr. Eric Thomas, motivational speaking that speaks life into me. And that's how I maintain. And I know that it's bigger than me. So these little aches and pains or whatever, I don't even need to speak on them, because when I speak on them, I make them bigger than they actually are. So if I keep putting one foot in front of the other, then I'll get to that level. And then it's like, God trusts me now with that level. And now he can elevate me to the next level. And so just level up, level up, level up, level up. Like Eva said, like Eva was talking about last time. I saw it. Level up.
Let me
Let's
see.
go.
Am Jenkins said, you were so together and seem so confident. You were an inspiration to me. Nappy Beauty Love asks, what helped you to get control of your emotions? And so I don't know if what you just talked about speaks to that, but if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think again, going back to emotions are not bad, right? Emotions are not bad. In fact, they're indicators for us in the same way that triggers are indicators, right? Triggers are not bad either. They're indicators that something needs to be worked on, right? And so if you have an emotional response to nouns, people, places, and things, pay attention to that, right? Pay attention to that. If somebody is taking you off your game or off your square, as I like to say, like we have a square that we have to take responsibility for in this life, right? Like our carbon footprint kind of thing. If somebody can say something or do something that causes you to be out of character and talk out the side of your neck, then pay attention to that. Don't all of a sudden blame them. Well, they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have. No, we're going to look in the mirror and not out the window, right? You want to look in the mirror, not out the window. Get out. That's right. Get out the window and get in the mirror. So that's really the thing. Just be brave about it. Just be brave about it. We all have flaws.
Can I
go all have flaws.
Go back, because I don't want to speed.
How far you want?
Oh, we're not going to go back far. I just don't want to speed past what you just said in terms of your self-awareness, and then people around you, whether they're friends or family. Like we get to a development in our life where people just start to fall off because they think you have either changed, or can you talk about the values and principles that you have embodied that just like is attracting greatness, obviously, but is repelling those who want to
Yeah.
stay the same. And they're like, well, what's up with my girl? You know, my home girl, you know, you want to go get a drink? Or I mean, can you expound?
Yeah, I mean, it's about my values and, you know, who I know I am called to be, right? And that might sound foo-foo, right? That might sound a little granola, but I really came to terms. Like, I remember I used to be a cusser. I mean,
You,
I was a cusser. I would cuss you, your mama, your daddy, down to your bone marrow. I would cuss you and didn't have a problem with it. I came from a long line of awesome cussers, like my mother, my grandmother, all the people. And when I heard myself, there was a recording, because as a singer, I'm always recording myself. There was a recording that I heard myself say something, and it was so ugly. It was so ugly. And I remember hearing it, and I was like,
wow.
that's what I sound like? Like, how can I speak life and death? Now, the Bible talks about the power of life and death is in the tongue, right? So the same thing that can speak life over my children can cut somebody to shreds, the same thing. And I didn't want to be that person. And I realized that I had been so hurtful to so many people just by using my words. And so that was really the beginning of it. And so when I
Right.
yes, awesome cussers. Yes, absolutely. Like professional cussers. Okay. But when I realized that that's not who I wanted to be, and I didn't have to be that just because my mother was that, or just because my grandmother was that, or just because that's the culture, Irish culture, you know, that's how people speak. I didn't have to buy into that stigma or that stereotype. And so I had to start loving who I was. And as soon as I began to love who I was, then I began to blossom into who I was really meant to be, because I was literally self-inflicting all this pain, all this sadness, all this disappointment on myself because of the choices that I was making, because of the way that I was speaking. And that was attracting other people that would speak that way. And so when I started to elevate my standards, then the standards around, it's like this. When you change the atmosphere in you, the atmosphere around you has to change. It has to change. When you turn up the thermostat, the whole room gets warmer, right? And so we talk about this. Do you want to be the thermometer? Do you want to be the one that's taking everybody else's temperature? Or do you want to be the thermostat that is setting the temperature for the room? And then I took my power and I said, you know what? I'm going to be a thermostat. I'm going to be the best thermostat. And here's the other thing, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I have to take responsibility for that power, because when I walk into a room and I have to check my attitude, people are like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And literally the entire room starts to diminish. The vibration in the room starts to diminish. So when I realize that's a responsibility, and I can be bitter about it and say, I don't really matter. People are not really influenced by me. Well, that's a lie. The truth is they are. And I'm one of the people that's just wired that way, like T, like Ash. We walk in the room and everything either elevates or diminishes. So how do you want your house to be? If the energy in your house is low, then you crank the temperature up. You bring the energy up. You shift your attitude. Well, they're always complaining. Well, what are you always doing? It sounds like you just complained. So when you begin to change the atmosphere in you, everything around you begins to shift.
Good. We have a question in the questions box. Again, thank you everybody who's tuning on. We appreciate you for hopping on. If you haven't already, make sure that you share this with 2 people. Right now, go ahead and hit that share button and share this with 2 people. If you have any questions for Ashling, go ahead and drop it in the questions box. Coach Kyle said, Ashling, did you stray from music for a while? And can you go over how you made your way back if you did?
It's good. That's good. That's good.
Great question. Great question. Shout out to Kyle. Salute, sir. I did. So what I didn't tell you is when I got the record deal with Interscope Records and they didn't release the album, that was actually very traumatic for me because I didn't have really control of my emotions and an understanding of my emotions. So I quit music. I came home. I was like, I came back home to my parents' house. I said, I'm not gonna sing anymore. I'm done with that, because I thought if the music business is so cruel, like it happened to be in that one circumstance, I was like, I don't want any parts of it. I had super thin skin, so I couldn't really take it. I couldn't take the criticism. I couldn't take the excuse me, the business side of the music business. I knew the music side, but I didn't really understand the business side, right? And so I started waiting tables. I worked in retail. I became a project manager. I was a tech writer for a while. I was a collections agent, doing business collections. I mean, I had jobs and jobs and jobs. I worked at Pete's Coffee. I worked at a bakery. I did everything that I could do to run
go ahead.
from my
Go
house.
ahead. Come on.
Yeah, I did everything that I could do. The furthest away thing that I could do. In fact, sometimes I have a tendency to be pulled back in that direction again, where if I've had a month financially that's not, up to par, I haven't met budget, whatever that is, I have a tendency, because I have that blue collar mentality that holds on so
Yeah.
it runs deep. Okay, blue collar mentality runs deep, but I'm not afraid to do the work, right? So every now and then I'll say, should I go get a job? And I remember a couple years ago, I was actually working with Eric Thomas, and I went and took a job at UPS. I took a job at UPS right here in Richmond. And I started working at UPS in the morning, early. So I figured I'll go work for a couple of hours. Nobody will even notice. I'm touring on the biggest stages, and I'm working at UPS. I met this young man working at UPS, and we got to talking, and he mentioned Eric Thomas. I was like, oh, Eric Thomas is a friend of mine. Talk to me about like what? So anyway, I made a video with this young man in my UPS uniform talking to this, and I made a video and I sent it to ET. So ET comes back and he puts a video together for this young man. Oh man, thank you for the support. Whatever he said, just to encourage this young man, changed his life. And then ET sent me another video just for me. And he was like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm not going to ask too many questions, but what you're doing in a UPS uniform. And I didn't even think of it in that way, but it was like his way of checking me to say, you are so much, not that there's anything wrong with working at UPS, but that's not what I'm called to do. That's not what I am called to do, to work in UPS, loading trucks, loading packages on trucks. Now, 7 days into working at UPS, I sprained my ankle and I couldn't go back to work for UPS. And so I'm like, do I really want to keep setting myself up for situations like this where God has to be like, don't do that again. Hold up, don't do that again, right? And I'm putting humor in it, but that's how it felt. It was like, this is not what you're supposed to do. And so I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time, and I sprained my ankle. And I ended up going out on disability. So I didn't ever go back out to UPS. But those are the types of moments where you really have to dig in and you have to say, am I doing everything that I can possibly do to be in alignment with my vision and my goals? And if the answer is no, then you got to sit down and you got to write it out. How are you spending your time? T and I just had a conversation about this morning. There are 168 hours in a week. How are you spending your time? I imagine you have more time than you think you do. I imagine that even if you take 8 hours, a lot of us don't sleep for 8 hours, but if you take 8 hours every day of sleep out of that, right, you still have over, that's only 40 hours, right? Or 56 hours for the week, right? You still have over 100 hours, right? Even if you take another 40 hours of that for a job, you still have 50 plus hours left. So I imagine we have more time than we think we have, but I think we have time wasters in our lives that are taking us away from greatness. And so it's just important to take inventory on how you're spending your time.
And I want to stay right there real quick. So knowing what you know now about yourself after taking the assessment, what would you say was one of your biggest distractions or time wasters that you experienced and have now are able to put a system around or overcome in some way?
Social media. And social media, what was happening is I had a consumer mindset where social media was concerned. And so I would be on social media just consuming, watching other people's lives, watching videos, spending money that I didn't need to spend because Instagram had followed my algorithm and they knew that I like Converse. And so they put Converse on my feed. And then I'm like, oh, there's another $50. Okay. So consumer mindset. But when I realized that, where am I producing? If social media, I'm watching all these other people be producers on social media, and I'm sitting up there just consuming. And that's what it's designed for, right? And so it's just another distraction. It's another time waster that's taking me away from my purpose. And so when I realized I needed to become a producer, have a producer mindset with social media, that's when it changed for me. And so now when I get on social media, now I try to comment every time somebody sends me a DM. I try to comment, except for like the real far from left. If you come from left field, you will get blocked. Okay, so I will just keep it 100. But I've had people send me messages to say, I saw you minister at such and such church and you changed my life. Thank you so much. I had a young man tell me that he was on his way to go home and commit suicide, but he happened to stop by this event and he heard me sing and it did something to him and he changed his mind. I mean, those are the moments that I'm like, I can't stop. I can't stop doing what I'm doing, because something that I say, something that I do might encourage somebody to know that it's going to be better, right? You are not your circumstance. You are not this current space or time, right? And so now I've turned social media into a way to reach people. And I've had some amazing things. I mean, just a couple months ago, I had a post that I put a year ago show up on Snoop's page, and Snoop shared it. And it went viral, and it had something like 3 million views or something like that. Like, those are the moments that I'm like, come on, let's go. Like, I never would have been in that circle had I not looked at social media a different way and used it as part of my
Tell us about Find Your Voice. You're tapping into your greatness and you launched Find Your Voice. Tell us about what that is and where that's going.
Absolutely. So Find Your Voice was a name that I came up with just because of my own story, growing up feeling like I didn't have a voice, and then the process by which I went through to find my voice. And your voice can be your singing voice, because I do coach vocalists in how to not only strengthen your voice, but how to maintain it so that when you get to be 20, 30, 40, 50, your voice is not diminished to the point where you can't use it anymore, which we see that a lot. We see people as they get older, they don't have the same quality of voice that they did when they were younger. So because of my classical training, I have exercises that can help to strengthen and maintain the voice. So that's part of the Find Your Voice. But it's also for speakers, people that want to communicate, people that don't know how to communicate. people that have a story in them and they don't quite know how to put it to words. We have exercises that we go through as far as figuring that out. If you have past trauma that's holding you back, go back to that time and space as your adult self and go talk to that little girl or little boy and give them a voice. You can't change what the past did, but you can change your perspective on it. And so that's also part of finding your voice. So I have an amazing group of students. I am always taking new students, and people can go to ashlingcole.com to find out more about that. But that's just been an amazing journey for me, because every time I teach, I learn. And I think that that's so important. Like we'll never get to a place where we know everything, right? And so when you learn something, go teach somebody that thing that you've learned, and then it reiterates it back to you, and then you can move on and learn other things and just keep teaching. We
have a question in the questions box. Astro Meme says, what do you know about yourself now that you didn't know when you were 30?
When I was 30. I love it. You mean last week? Oh, okay. What do I know now? Wow. I know that I deserve to be loved and respected and appreciated in a relationship. And I can honestly say at 30 years old, I did not know that. I was married. I have 2 beautiful children out of that marriage. But the marriage it wasn't serving me or him. It was not a good situation for me or him. And so it was best that we went our separate ways. And so at that time, I just didn't know what I deserved. And honestly, I didn't think that level of, or that caliber of man existed. And that's only because, like I said, sometimes you got to change your circle, right? If you are associating yourself with this caliber of person, then that's all you're going to think there is. That's why I think it's so important that we travel the world. Like, get your passport. If you don't have your passport, get it. This is the year to get your passport. Go take a trip. Go to somewhere else. Go elsewhere. My mom, actually, she wrote a book, and the name of her book was Longing for Elsewhere, which I always thought was just the greatest title. Because when you go elsewhere, you get to learn new cultures, you get to eat different food, you get to see people that don't look like you. And the more you learn about out there, the more you learn about yourself. So definitely, I think that's something, yes, get your passport. And so now I'm embarking on, the relationship that I've always wanted, the love that I've always wanted. And it's just an amazing, amazing feeling, because I attracted that which I had become. I had become like so loving and so giving and so self-aware and so, just aware of who I am, that I was able to attract that same caliber of person.
I have a question. You work with some of the greats, but who's your favorite artist? Like, who inspires you?
Nah, you can't ask me who my favorite artist is. I can't answer. Okay. I could never answer that. Absolutely. But my influencers, for people that I've worked with, of course, we talked about Larry Graham. I did get a chance to work with Prince several times, and that was absolutely amazing. He was somebody that just co-signed.
What did you like about him?
At a time. Oh, he was bigger than life, like larger than life, as we all thought he was. But he was also soft-spoken. He was also funny. He cracked jokes. He was just his work ethic. If there's one thing I could learn from him, his work ethic. We would do a 4-hour show, and actually it would end up being a 6-hour show, because we'd have an opener and then we do the main act, and then we might do an after. We would still go backstage and watch the footage from the show, even though it was 6 hours. Like, that was part of that was part of the gig. You go back and you watch the tape and you see, how could we improve this? How can we get better? How can we tighten this up? Where were there, you know, mistakes or anything like that? And I thought that was so good, like, because some of us just keep going and going and we think we have it all together. We just keep going and we don't even know we could elevate it to even a higher level. So definitely gone too soon. I definitely miss him. He used to call on a Tuesday and say, I need you in Paris on Thursday. And man, I miss that. But Dave Cause is another person that I work with consistently. Every year I do the Dave Cause cruise. He's just a joy to be around. One of the most generous, warm, like loving people that I have ever worked with. Kenny Lattimore is just a beautiful human being. Gerald Albright. I mean, so many. Kurt Whalum, Kirk Franklin. So many amazing artists. I mean, the list goes on and on. I have just been absolutely blessed to work with some of the best artists of our time. Really.
We have a couple questions in the question box. Be Your Own Greenlight said, might we hear a song in the future titled Longing for Elsewhere? Okay.
I mean, okay, all right. No,
right,
duly
right.
Noted.
Someone else asked, what advice can you give about how to remain consistent with God?
Great question. And I would honestly, I would say be consistent. And the way that you do that is set aside time. Find out what time it is that, you know, for me, it's first thing in the morning, right? I didn't grow up in church. A lot of people don't know this, but I didn't grow up in church. My father was an atheist. My mother was agnostic. And so I didn't get saved until I was like 23 or 24. And so my view on my relationship with God, it is constant. It is 24/7. I don't just say, okay, it's 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to be in relationship. No, it's constantly 24/7. However, you want to add activities like getting in his word, like prayer, like small groups, like going to church. Like, these are the things that can consistently confirm the relationship that you have with him, because that's what it's about. It's not about religion. It's really about relationship. And how do you get to know somebody that you're in a relationship with? You spend time with them. And so scheduling that time, whatever works best for you, would be my number one.
Ash, I want to respect your time. As we close up,
we still have so many questions coming in too. I think we're gonna have to bring her back because
well, let's take, you know, like one or two.
I'm good. I can stay on. I can stay on a little longer. We can stay.
Let's go about let's go about 5 or 7 more minutes. Ash, while you're looking at those questions, Ashling, how important, because we're striving every single day to be the best version of ourselves, how important is your routine in supporting your best version of you?
I was waiting for this question to come up. I'm like, you are almost the end of the hour.
Oh, I know.
So, Coach T, shout out to Coach T. He has been absolutely instrumental in supporting me in developing routines in my life. As I mentioned, my personality is based on emotions. And so in the past, I have been somebody who didn't really think routine was important, because I was like, if I feel like doing it, then I'll do it. And if I don't feel like doing it, I won't do it. But I wasn't finding the success in my business or the success in my career that I hoped for, that I wanted. And so when I began to realize that millionaires have schedules, millionaires have structure. They have routines. They have morning routines and night routines and daytime routines. And like T talks about, a fixed schedule, a flex schedule, all of those things. And so as I began to understand that, I realized that if I don't schedule myself for those daily things that I want to accomplish, they probably won't get done. So now I have a solid morning routine. Like I wake up at this time, and I'm talking about like down to the bare bones. Like I brush my teeth, I use the bathroom, I take a shower, I get dressed, I do my hair, I do my makeup. Like otherwise, sometimes they don't get done, right? That's where you start. And that's called like habit stacking, right? You have a habit of brushing your teeth, let's say. We all hopefully do that, right? So if you start with that, okay, while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to listen to the podcast, right? And when I listen to the podcast, it gives me energy so I can go sit down and spend 30 minutes in reading the Bible or writing in my journal or whatever it might be, right? And so you start stacking habits on it. But here's the thing about a morning routine. Your morning routine is only as strong as your night routine. And if you don't have a night routine down, and I'm talking about discipline, I find I have to have more discipline with my night routine than my morning routine, because there's so many distractions at night. There's social media, there's the television, there's the news, there's food, there's conversation, there's quality time if you have a significant other. There's all these things that can be distractions from your night routine. And next thing you know, it's 1 a.m. and you got to be up at 5 a.m. So now I have not stuck to my night routine. Now my morning routine is trash, basically, because I'm not going to get up when I'm supposed to because I'm too tired. I'm not going to do all the things that make me feel good about myself, like shower and all the things, right? I work from home, so I have the luxury of doing it or not doing it. But when I don't do it, I feel a diminished level of energy. I don't feel like I'm at my optimal self. So now that I understand the value of a night routine, it causes me to say, you know what? Oh, it's 9 o'clock. I got to turn all the electronics off and shut it down. And here's the thing. Don't fall asleep. Shout out to Moose if he's still on, because he told me this. Don't fall asleep, go to sleep. Don't fall asleep on the couch. Oh, I fell asleep on the couch. Why? You weren't intentional about your sleep. Be intentional about your sleep. Like respect and love yourself enough to go to bed. Like get ready for bed. Like put on something nice that makes you feel good. Brush your teeth, brush your hair, wash your face, like put on lotion, do all those things that make you feel good, and go to sleep with the good sheets and the good blankets and the good pillows, right? Because aren't you a king and queen? Aren't you a child of the Most High? Like treat yourself as such, and good things come to those who take care of themselves.
Okay, let's see. How many coaches do you have currently? From Julianne Stanley.
How many?
Yes.
Coaches do I have
currently?
Oh, wow. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 coaches right now. Yep, I have 4 coaches in different areas. I mean, Coach T is one of my coaches, and he's my coach for structure because he's the air traffic controller personality that we talked about. I'm a flight attendant personality. And so he knows instinctively, that's what he's good at. He does it naturally. He doesn't have to put any effort into structure. That's who he is. I am not structured naturally. And so when I meet with him and he asks me routine questions of repetitive, then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. It begins to make sense and it becomes more natural to me. I also have a therapist who is my coach that I meet with every week because mental health is very, very important. She's a professional. I am not a professional mental health care provider. And so I have somebody that I can, get feedback from and to check the barometer to make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. I have a voice coach and I have a coach's coach. And
okay, let's see. Last one, I think. What advice can you give about transitioning into purpose from doing so many other things?
Okay. So you're doing a bunch of things for a bunch of people. This is how I'm taking I'm interpreting your question. And you don't feel a sense of purpose in all the things that you're doing. So for me, it's like what's the thing that's bringing the income, right? So if you're doing too many things that's not bringing in income, okay, let's try to minimize those, right? Focus for just a moment on what's bringing in revenue, right? Those revenue generating activities,
That's right.
right? Right. So focus on those just for a moment, because you need to keep your income coming in, right? But begin to trim the fat, right? Are you doing this activity over here that's not generating any revenue because you feel obligated to do it, but you're not actually getting satisfaction from it? If the answer is yes, then start an exit strategy of how to move out of that. Last year, I was teaching Bible study, and I loved it. And it was fulfilling at some level, but at some point it wasn't bringing in revenue, and it was taking time away from other things that I needed to do. And then I felt that it was a burden and I wasn't a good teacher. I'm a great teacher, but in that moment, I wasn't the quality or caliber of teacher that I needed to be for that. And so I stepped away, and I gave them 30-day notice. And I'm so glad I did, because what that did was open up the door for somebody else to come in who was purposed to do that in that season. And so you trying to wear all these different hats is not serving you or the community or your family or somebody else who is meant to wear that hat. You're actually wearing somebody else's hat. And so take it off. Take it off. Figure out how much money you need to make every month. Do those activities that are going to generate that income. And then start letting go of those things that are not serving the purpose that you've been called to do. And if you don't know what your purpose is, focus on that thing that you are good at that other people it doesn't come quite naturally to them. That's your purpose. That thing that you're good at that other people struggle to do. Like structure for Coach T. He coaches structure. That's what he's good at. That's how he lives his life. He lives a structured life. And so he can teach it. I'm good at singing. I'm good at teaching. That's what I do. That's what I focus on. And then you start to do that. And then you get with coaches that can teach you how to generate income doing what you love. And then you will live a purpose-driven life.
Ash is, man, every room that you go into, I mean, you said it earlier, you light up the room. It's just natural. Like some people naturally have it. Ash has it too. It's just a gift. And these gifts, we have to open the floodgates and allow ourselves to be and become the very best version of who you are. We're not competing like when I'm in a room with you guys, I'm never competing. I'm always in awe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Ash.
Because and here's what's so important is like your skill set, T, and my skill set, and Coach Ash, your skill set, it's different, but it's necessary and needed. And so if I'm worried about what you're doing, and that means that I'm not doing, I'm not in my
that's good.
Like Sheila E said, you're covering for somebody else and they're not on their job. Now you're not on your job. So when we all are in our authentic self, that's when we get stuff done. That's when lives are changed. That's when doors are open. And if we all could do that, can you imagine how much greater this world would be if we would all just live in alignment
we're going
with
to
our
come to you
purpose.
for some last words, but thank you so much for your time and for being on with us. Make sure to show Ashling some love in the comments. Give her some heart emojis, some fire emojis, some gem emojis, whatever you were able to get from this live and us spending time together. Also, to make sure you go to the top and hit the title. Make sure that you're following Ashling, you're following T, and you're also following myself. We do this every Thursday, 5 p.m. PST. So make sure that you tap in with us. Ash, any last words that you have for the audience and how they can find you?
Sure. Yeah, you can go to ashlingcole.com and find really everything you need is there. Links to coaching, links to merchandise. I got on my Ashling Cole t-shirt today. Absolutely. Come on. So yeah, everything you need to find me, all my social media links are on there. And I'll leave you with this. Oftentimes we get stuck in the process. But the process is where we learn. The process is where we grow. The process is where God can have his way in educating. You know, there's things that God can give us, but there's things that he has to teach us. And so oftentimes when we ask for those things, like, why can't I have more patience? Well, he can't give you patience. He has to teach you patience. And so as you're going through the process, just remember that you are already that thing that you want to be. You're already that version of yourself. You just have to go through the process of getting there. So embrace the process of becoming your
I love it. I love it. Ash, we are so proud of you. Thank you very much for, I feel like we're going to have a world tour throughout the year. So,
come on.
We got to keep you in rotation because of how great you are.
Wow, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And one of these days, y'all invite me out to the 5 a.m. Workout.
You already invited. That ain't a question.
Yeah,
you can come tomorrow morning.
You probably gotta get that right.
I got you. I got you.
You know, next week.
Right.
We get it in.
Right. Definitely in a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for your time. We appreciate everybody that's hopped on. Make sure you continue to tap in with us. Yeah, man, let's go get it. All right, have a good night.
All right, yeah. Let's win.